After a single man passed away, the locals discovered an astounding secret about his life. Throughout the world, countless people live their lives alone without a partner or children. Alan Nauman was one such person before he sadly passed away from cancer in January 2018. Following his death, however, the local community then uncovered quite an incredible secret about his life. A resident of Seattle, Washington, named and worked as a banker before making an interesting career switch in the late 1980s. He decided to become a social worker at that time, joining Washington's Department of Social and Health Services. The changes in his life didn't end there, though, as the singleton looked to establish himself in his new position. Indeed, Nauman took on additional work at a few other jobs while plying his trade in social work. While he certainly kept busy, the former banker was also an incredibly private, frugal man, spending very little money on himself. However, there was a potential reason for all their privacy and frugality. Nauman's older brother Daniel suffered from a developmental disability, with a Seattle native looking after him as a result. In the opinion of one of his friends, that responsibility shaped his life. Growing up as a kid with an older disabled brother kind of colored the way he looked at things. Susan Madsen told the Associated Press in December 2018. During Nauman's time as a social worker, he also dealt with many kids living with disabilities, fueling his love of children. Although the former banker didn't have a wife or girlfriend, he did become a foster parent for a time. On that note, one of his work colleagues made an astute observation. The kids that came into care got into Alan's heart, Mary Monaghan told BBC News in December 2018. Away from that, Nauman's low spending was picked up on by his friends and peers as he made some interesting choices. In one particular instance, the social worker opted against buying a new pair of shoes, maintaining the old ones with tape instead. Nauman's scrimping nature didn't stop there, though. He also purchased many of his outfits from Costco and looked to save money with a collection of coupons. Meanwhile, when treating his friends to buy to eat at lunchtime, the former foster parent would often frequent restaurants serving fast food. However, the low spending didn't reflect the nation's financial status, as he was earning just under $70,000 a year as a social worker. With that in mind, one of his old banking friends lifted the lid on his mindset regarding money. Shashi Karan made an interesting point on that note. After staying in contact with his former colleague throughout the years, saving money was sort of a game to Nauman, and Karan told CNN in December 2018. He would brag about how he had a whole day out and didn't have to spend a single cent in 2013, though the name briefly brought an end to the game following a heartbreaking personal loss. Nauman's brother Daniel passed away that year, which prompted him to dip into his financial reserves. Off the back of losing his sibling, the Seattle native treated himself to a present by buying a sporty vehicle. Despite that, Karan believed that he was still holding back in his spending at that time. "It's a nice little sports car," Karan said of Nauman's vehicle, "but it's not a Mustang or a Corvette or a Porsche that he easily could have afforded." Before that, the social worker's cars had reflected his frugal spending, as did the various road trips he took during his time off. On that note, Karan made a bittersweet observation about his friend following his death. While he knew his name for over 30 years, there were areas of his life that remained a mystery. "I don't know if he was lonely," the former banker's colleague told the Associated Press. "I think he was a loner." After receiving the cancer diagnosis, Nauman and started to put things into place, with one group in particular benefiting from his actions. The Treehouse organization, which helps those in foster care, was given a donation of $5,000 by the Seattle native. Unsurprisingly, that move caught a lot of people off guard. Jessica Ross was one of those individuals, as the Treehouse's chief development officer revealed that donations would rarely go above a few $100. Nauman and certainly blew that average total away, though. "That's a big deal for us," he told BBC News. "We were surprised by that." However, the biggest surprise was yet to come for Nauman's colleagues and friends. The social worker sadly succumbed to his cancer in January 2018, some 5 years after his brother's passing. At that point, his peers then made quite an incredible discovery about his life, which had managed to keep secret. Despite names for frugal spending, he boasted a fortune in the region of 11 million, which he raised in many different ways. Using the money that he earned at work, the former banker made several investments, building his total in the process. He also received a sizable sum from his parents. According to Karen, Nauman inherited millions of dollars from his late dad, adding to his growing personal fortune. In an interesting twist, though, Karen was one of only a handful of people who knew about the social worker's vast sums of money. The Seattle native's old friend then explained why there was such a reluctance to spend the cash. Nauman was just that kind of guy that he couldn't just spend the money, Karen told CNN. It was just in his nature to save the money and put it aside. I think he always knew that he was going to leave his money to charity. Indeed, the former banker shared that news with one of his other friends that held off mentioning the sum. I think everyone was shocked, really shocked, that Nauman had so much money to give away, Monahan said to BBC News. People will be surprised at the amount Nauman told her before his passing. Yeah, people were, I'm sure, very surprised. She recalled after the discovery, Nauman's 11 million fortune was divided up and given to various charities and organizations as per his will. Among those to benefit from his kindness were Make-A-Wish Alaska and Washington Child Heaven, and the Little Bit Therapeutic Riding Center. Meanwhile, the Treehouse received another sizable donation, far surpassing the previous one. This time around named and gave Treehouse around $900,000 of his money, studying everyone at the foster care organization. As it turned out, during his stint as a foster parent, the social worker took his children to their facility. While there, they picked up some of the free toys on offer. Once again, Ross was left speechless by Nauman's donation. Our organization was just overcome with that kindness and that love, she told BBC News. I don't want the number to outweigh the experience of being a part of this. That was really about the way he wanted to leave the world. While the money would be used to improve Treehouse's efforts across Washington, Ross couldn't help but praise Nauman and selflessness one more time. The frugality that he lived through, that he committed to in his life, was for this, she told the Associated Press. It's a gift to all of us to see that pure demonstration of philanthropy and love. Those organizations weren't the only ones to benefit from the names of millions, with a former banker donating around $5 million to another cause. Indeed, the Pediatric Interim Care Center (PICC) received that sum after had worked with him a few years earlier. Much like with Treehouse, he also made an earlier gift before his passing. With that in mind, PICC released a heartfelt tribute on its website commemorating Nauman's kindness. We first became aware of Alan's generosity last fall when we received a $10,000 donation from him online. The statement read, thinking that large amount might be a mistake, we called him to make sure he had entered the right number of zeros. After reassuring the charity that the figure was a correct name and promised that he would be sending them even more money down the line. From there, the care center then received some interesting information. He later wrote us a letter telling us about a connection to PICC that had started many years ago. The tribute continued. It went back to a night many years ago when Nauman was a new social worker at the Department of Social and Health Services. The PICC statement read, he was desperate to find a home to place a fragile baby that had been brought into his office late that evening. Thankfully, his name got the help that he needed from the charity's founder. It was after midnight when he called Barbara Drennan, asking her if she could come to his office in Seattle to pick up this little one. The tribute went on. To his great relief, Barbara came and took the baby. The connection between Mann and Drennan didn't end there, though, as his social work often brought him back to PICC. Later, there were other times when Ellen needed help with a baby. The statement continued, and Barbara and the Pediatric Interim Care Center were always there for him and the babies he never forgot. On that note, the organization then revealed how the $5 million donations would be spent. Thanks to Nauman, PICC was able to purchase some new transportation to pick up infants from the local hospitals. Leave a comment below and tell us what you think. If you liked the video, give it thumbs up. As always, thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel To see more great videos,